Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining me in this webinar to learn more about metadata at its origins. Publishers talk about metadata. We have two special guests today, Julia Malish, who is a discovery manager at Oxford University Press, and Manisha Sangavi, who is senior discovery operations manager at Sage. Thank you for joining us, both of them former librarians and wonderful partners for managing metadata. The purpose of today's webinar is to better understand processes done by providers to create and manage metadata and how Ex Libris is part of the flow. I will start with a short overview of content management goals. We will continue with Julia to present the metadata journey and conclude with Manisha, who will deep dive into workflows and challenges. Starting with content management goals. The metadata is there for two main reasons: search accuracy and easy to access. Metadata is created so that our search results will be as accurate as possible and to make access to the full text as easy as possible. These goals are shared by all the key partners of this process, starting from the institutions, in which librarians train users, promote the content that they buy, catalog it for better retrieval, and make sure they are standardized to cross-search will be more effective. The content providers that are linked with the institutions with the acquisitions process are also putting many efforts to improve search accuracy and ease of access by cataloging efforts and working with the industry standards for metadata for different material types. Sending this metadata to Ex Libris, we work towards the goal of improving search accuracy and ease of access by improving the software and cooperation with the community and industry. And managing the metadata comes together when we all face the same challenges: how to keep up with the new products and content, managing open access properly so patrons will have a clear and understandable vision of access rights, decline of resources, especially well-trained employees and global shifts in the employment market, high mobility of content between content providers, and above all, staying innovative where the provider, community, and Ex Libris partnerships bring out the best. Cooperation, transparency, and creativity are key factors to easily bring accurate metadata to patrons. So now I'll hand it off to Julia to give a better overview of how the workflows are happening with the providers.
Thank you, Tamar. Can everybody hear me? Good, thank you. So I'm Julia Malish. I'm Discovery Manager at Oxford University Press, commonly referred to as OUP. I'm a librarian by training, as Tamar mentioned in the introduction. I spent about 18 years working in the field in various types of libraries and spent a majority of my time in academic libraries, working in instruction, cataloging, discovery, and I was fortunate enough to implement Summon during my time there. I moved over to Oxford as a training manager and then became discovery manager a couple of years ago. So I'm picking up the work of some very qualified candidates, previous predecessors to myself, who helped set discovery helped set up discovery at OUP. I work in an intermediary role. My role is slightly different to my predecessors. I get to work with the content operations teams, so those that publish the content. And then I also have a customer-facing role. So I get to work with all of you to ensure that how we publish our metadata meets your needs, your workflows. And being a former librarian, I have a pretty good understanding of what it's like to be in your space, sitting at your desk, having to manage what we deliver to you. At OUP, we often receive many questions about the time it takes for metadata, in whatever form that comes, to be delivered and processed so that you can see our collections in your discovery layer. So our presentation today is designed to help you understand what processes exist to create and then deliver metadata, KBART files, MARC records for both ALMA and Summon. And I'd like to make sure I preface this presentation that this is OUP's way of doing it. It isn't representative of the industry as a whole, just Oxford. So other providers, we all have a similar process, but they may be handled differently by different teams. So next slide, please. as we go through this presentation, I'd like you all to keep in mind that there are many parts to the metadata workflow. Much of this flow can be visualized in this brilliant image that's from Julie Zhu, who's the discovery manager at IEEE. You can find this image and the related article in her Scholarly Kitchen article called Building Pipes and Fixing Leaks, which is a more detailed review of how metadata is created and how metadata errors can occur and what we can do to mitigate them. As you can see from that image, there's quite a lot of ways that things fall through the cracks and what we have to do to try to fix them. Next slide, please. So metadata flows in a relatively standard format. We create the metadata, we deliver it through an SFTP or an MFT to our discovery partners. They process it somewhere in that tap image, and it goes into their knowledge base, which is then delivered to you all. In OUP's case, we have 3 teams that each build the different pieces of content. Whether it's XML, mock records, or KBART files, each team delivers to the respective portal where it's ingested by Ex Libris' knowledge base. Next slide. So if we look at that a little more in depth, the XML and mock records have similar processes, more or less. They are created by third-party partners. Our XML teams create the XML as part of the publication process. And then we have a person in one of our teams who delivers that to our partners on a monthly basis. For our mock records, we contract with a third-party supplier to make our mock records for us. We don't have librarians in-house, whereas some other publishers actually have librarians in-house that make mock records for them. Oxford has a long-standing working agreement with Bibliographic Data Services, or BDS for short, who are the mock record and metadata provider for the British Library. If you're ever looking for our records in the Alma knowledge base, you can always find them by looking for, not necessarily for Oxford or UK_OUP, which is our provenance flag in the 040 field. You'd be looking for SDU BDS, which is the provenance flag for BDS, and then they have the copyright for our MARC records. So we have our third party that publishes our MARC records. They deliver them back to us. We parse them into various different packages and put them on our website. We put them into tools that you can download customized MARC record packages, and then we deliver those again to the partners on a monthly basis. That's one of my few roles that I get to do, is I deliver the MARC records, which somebody at Ex Libris is about to email me and tell me that I'm late doing it because I haven't sent the August records yet, but I will get them. So we publish on 2 different platforms at OUP. We publish on Oxford Academic, which is where a majority of our journals and monograph content is covered. And then we have a separate platform, which is our older platform that delivers out our reference content. Most of the content on one of our platforms delivers out monthly, but all of our reference content delivers out 3 to 4 times a year. So we also have to keep track of different schedules of when content is published so that we can make sure that we get those records over to Ex Libris as quickly as possible so that you all can get that content in your library catalogs for customers to use. KBART files are created by an internal team, and they're housed in a very large database. It's kind of like Excel times 20. It's called FileMaker. Our current FileMaker has close to 55,000 lines of title data. It's very big. It's something Excel could never handle. So what happens is once our MARC records are created, MARC records go to the KBART manager. He then takes title lists and other data through KBART and then combines them to make those lines in the KBART files. He has lots of scripts built into that FileMaker, so it just does it in a matter of minutes. And then he packages all of the different scripts, and he packages all that content into the different packages and delivers it to the partners. So it's a very manual process. We'll see a little bit more on that on the next slide, where we go into how this is all done. Because on top of, so we can move to the next slide tomorrow. So On top of this being, we have these 3 different partners that deliver MARC records for you. We have various different teams around the press through our content operations teams that manages different types of data. So once the MARC records are delivered, we also have to quality check all the metadata to make sure everything's correct. Then we have to add certain other data sources from different parts. So we have to make sure the ISBNs match between what's in the MARC record and what we're seeing in our data sources. We have to make sure the titles changed correctly. There's a publishing system, and sometimes somebody will change, an author or the editorial teams will change the subtitle slightly. It gets picked up in the MARC record, but doesn't necessarily get picked up in the publishing tool. So we have to go back and make sure all of those things match so that you as a customer are getting the right information in the MARC record in the KBART file. So we match all of those things up and get that get those KBART files correct in place. At OUP, we add a lot of other columns to the standard KBART format. So we will add for you DOIs, MARC record, OCLC numbers. We'll add collection information, the package where you can find, like what collection. So is it OSO for Oxford Scholarship Online, or is it Oxford Handbooks? And then the subjects and some other subfields to that. So we add a lot of content in addition to the standard KBART format. After that, there's a lot of manual work that goes into putting together the MARC records. What is in those first 3 boxes takes a matter of minutes. And then it takes a couple of hours to do all of the manual work, putting them into the respective collections. We also have content that requires additional work. So for example, OA or hybrid OA. Hybrid OA, with the way OUP handles this, requires 2 lines of content. So we put a line for free content and a line for paid content. And then we have to go in and manually add notes for which chapters are considered OA and which chapters are paid, so that you as a customer can read our KBART and say, okay, so I know why that's in the OA file, because chapters 7, 9, and 13, for example, are OA chapters. For journals, there's a considerable amount of work. If we, as publishers, acquire journals back and forth, which happens at the beginning of every year, we have to absorb all of that content into our KBART files. Sometimes, if a journal has been around for a while, it might have 3 or 4 title changes. So we have to add separate lines for each of those title changes. We have to go back and verify that the metadata that we've been given from the previous publisher matches our style of metadata and also contains those different title changes. We have to make sure we've got the coverage data correct and make sure we've got the dates correct for when those titles changed. Sometimes a lot of this work, and then if you add in that maybe a journal that comes to us is also OA or exists in multiple packages, like our archive packages or our current journals packages, it requires multiple lines. So sometimes you can have a journal that has up to 6 or 7 lines of data corresponding to each of those different title changes and such. So there's a lot of history that goes in and a lot of time that goes into manually making sure that those KBART are correct. Between the static and the dynamic packages that we have, both older packages of content, so let's say 2020 journals collections, and our current packages, we deliver over 600 different collections to Ex Libris. So it is quite a lot of work to maintain all of that and make sure that we keep up the QA on those 600 packages, but we get it all done. Once it's packaged, we run a series of scripts to get them all the content into their right packages, and then we deliver those out to the discovery service. So for our next slide, I want to move on from that and talk about the ways of working with Ex Libris, which help us. We have a fantastic publisher relations team at Ex Libris that we work with. We hold monthly meetings with them. So we have some ways of working with Ex Libris that help us facilitate that relationship and managing those 600 KBART packages and MARC records and metadata and getting it all correct. So we do annual collection building. We publish a manifest every month. Our manifest you can find on our public KBART pages. The manifest details what our packages look like, what our file names are, how often it's updated, all of those details that we need to provide a provider to let them know what type of content we're delivering out. So because we can guess ahead of time that we are going to publish the 2024 collections, we can already work here in September, almost October now, to start building out those 2024 packages and get them ready to deliver to Ex-Libris ahead of time so that Ex-Libris knows and can set up those 2024 packages for you all to get your content. We build the manifest, which is that second item on the column there. We, again, as I just explained what that is, we publish that as well. We also use standard naming conventions for all of our file tags. We're currently working on some areas that we have to clarify what our package names actually are. And we are doing some work with Ex-Libris on that, but we constantly work on making sure that the naming conventions that we're using in our manifest and in our KBART packages make sense to the customer. And finally, we have monthly check-ins with that provider relations team. They're a fantastic group of people, always working. And I have to say, for somebody that's based in California, it is really heartwarming to see somebody going to work working in the evenings, and that my publisher relations, provider relations specialist is in Israel, and I can talk to her during my regular day because she works the same hours, or she has crossover hours when I can talk to her. So we do have a fantastic way of working with Ex-Libris to constantly work on fixing those things that you as our customers find when you find errors. So on to the next slide. Speaking of fixing errors, let's return to Julie's image. As you can imagine, sometimes the process can result in errors. There's, what are we looking at? 27 different ways that data can fall apart, whether it's at the production and editorial end, whether it's a typing mistake or a processing mistake with one of our tools internally, whether it's at the customer end or something doesn't get delivered correctly through the SFTP. So times complex errors can be complex when we try to fix them. When you raise an error through the ticketing process, there's quite often an extensive review of our data before we can find the error. Sometimes what may be a simple ISBN fix needs to go through the different publication sources to find out where that ISBN error came from. Is it actually an error with an ISBN? Is it the wrong ISBN that was used? Where did the error come from? Tracing it back can often be quite complex. We want to make sure that all of our data sources are using the correct information. So even though we've already done that QA, we have to go back and re-QA and find out where the error came from and how did it slip through to reach your hands, because effectively we should have fixed this before it went out. So we'll go back, verify information, sometimes all the way back to our editorial teams to make sure we have the correct metadata. We'll check DOIs, we'll go to Crossref, we'll go to various different sources to try to figure out where the error that you're finding has come from. Keeping this image in mind, our goal is always to improve how we deliver content to Ex-Libris and improve your customer experience. So we really appreciate it when you do raise tickets through Ex-Libris to request improvements. Recently, a few of you, and I can even see one of you online today in the participant list, have requested the Oxford Handbooks Online annual subject collections. So because of your feedback and you raising tickets to Ex-Libris, we were able to find resource to build those collections. There's like 200 of them. And we had to build all of those annual subject collections and deliver them across to you all. So we were able to get that work done, and it's a direct result of you asking for that. We're also working on other internal process improvements to fix the time it takes us to get MARC records delivered, to improve that manual KBART creation process. And of course, the most requested customer need of all right now is automated KBART delivery. We are working on it. It's on our roadmaps. We've currently got active conversations going. My next meeting is next week, and we are continuing to make progress on delivering that to you all as well. So now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Manisha so she can talk to you through the case studies that she has working with Ex-Libris.
Thank you, Julia and Tamar. Good morning and afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. As Tamar introduced, I'm former librarian. I started my career from Tata Group of Industries in India as a librarian, and I work different types of libraries for almost 25 years before joining Sage. Um, I work for public libraries, special libraries in the UK, Idea Store, Tower Hamlets, City Business Library, Wellcome Trust, and a few further and higher education institutions in London, University College of London, Redbridge College, Merton College, South Thames College, and yeah, now I ended up with Sage. I work on all products and drive discoverability of our products into the library systems and discovery services for the success of the products with happy clientels across the globe. And during my out of office time, I keep myself busy in writing a blog, uh, singing, dancing, cooking, playing badminton, chess, cards, and many more other activities. So yeah, today I wish to showcase enabling flawless content discovery with a downstream and upstream approach through this content quarterly webinar with Exlibris and OUP. As Tamara and Julia mentioned, discovery is becoming more and more important in today's technical age. It is essential to deliver the services to customers' full satisfaction. If this is not monitored accurately, there is a high risk on the businesses. This can leave an impact for short term as well as for long term, positively and negatively, right? So yeah, I would encourage you to share your questions as Ral mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, and hope that's okay with you all. Thank you. Yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, as Julia mentioned, in content discovery, there are four elements that are very essential. Full text indexing provides content to index discovery systems and databases. This function enables article level and chapter level indexing within aggregators, databases, and discovery systems. Collection level KBART files, which are prepared according to the collection that we sell and goes to knowledge base of the discovery systems. Title level MARC records, which are also prepared according to the content and can be ingested in the library management system and discovery systems, and searchable through library catalogs and discovery systems. It is vital to maintain the good rapport with colleagues internally as well as externally with discovery service providers. I work very closely with OCLC, Exlibris, which is now part of Clairvet, and EBSCO, and other abstracting and indexing partners. The list goes more than 200 aggregators that I work with. It is also important to mention that there is huge efforts goes behind the scene to achieve the quality of the content that Sage publish, maintaining the systems that house accurate metadata through the complex workflows. So yeah, we'll talk about it very soon. Yeah, next slide, please. Right, so in 2022, I delivered a session in UKSG webinar on content discovery, and I asked this question to the attendees. So surprisingly or unsurprisingly, these were the responses that I received. And I thought it was an eye-opening to understand the expectations here, right? So yeah, I just thought it's a good space to share this here. Okay, next slide, please. Right. So in upstream, there are quite few essential elements, and I have arranged them in this format. Product setup provides the aim, audience, and users. It also includes the planning of the product that can be in phases and in stages. Timeline of the product life, when would it start, when it would grow, when it would get developed. How to approach the updates about the product in future. General awareness about the product, internal as well as external. So for an example, if the new product coming up next year or next to next year, I share this information with Exlibris as soon as I would made aware of, which would help Exlibris to schedule resources around those timelines. So it's very crucial information to work on. XML delivery setup, so content management system and repository management, content format according to the standard. We follow Hub and TI standards at Sage. There are lots of schematron rules to avoid unnecessary delays on the product launch and top-ups. Quality checks of the content and metadata, working closely with discovery service providers and abstracting and indexing partners to understand their system requirements, to index the content swiftly, liaise with developers internally at Sage, and system analysts help me to understand where my expertise stops, and I seek for more help and guidance to make sure that the delivery contains the required information in a structured format, so that it's easier to process the content in bulk and on time as well. Cross-ref registration, DOI registration is very important to enhance the discoverability of the content for article and chapter level indexing. If this is not done accurately, what happens? As a publisher, we can see that content is on the platform because we are on the same network, but nobody from outside can hit the content, can see the content in the real world. Mark XSLT, so we use Mark XSLT created in-house to create mark records, to maintain the accuracy of metadata across the platform, to avoid all these metadata issues, make it minimizing it, and that would help customers, users, and researchers as well. Collection setup according to the market need and business need. Metadata management is also very important, as there are several departments involved at different stages of the product lifeline. And in today's digital era, it is important to remember that there is a human behind each computer, right? So maintaining a good repo within other internal departments is vital to the success of the product, from beginning to the beginning of the product to when it reaches to the happy customers, right? So yeah, next. Generally, it looks very simple to adhere to the publishing workflows. However, each and every steps that I've described in this workflow is containing high weightage and very complex set of processes. Outreaching to the faculties, lecturers, or educationalists to prepare the content, or vice versa, making sure that content is high quality. Relationship management with authors, researchers, societies, editors. That is also a key part of the business as a publisher. Librarians promote the trials of the product, participate in demos, and take decision to purchase our products. And researchers and users take a deep dive into the products and check discoverability by accessing the content seamlessly. Meanwhile, publishers support pre-sales and post-sales training, along with MARC records, KBART files, and full text content. Librarians also monitor and read the usage of the product that demonstrate the true evidence of value, and the product would be renewed, right? So this is the general workflow. But when we go into deep, it becomes very, very complex. So I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so yeah, next. Right, so Sage has various types of products, and few of them are here. Recently, we have rebranded our products, as you all know. Sage Knowledge, Sage Journal, Sage Research Methods, Sage Courses, Sage Data, Sage Vantage, CQ Press, Sage Catalyst, variety and range of products. Yeah, thank you. Next. Right, so can you see this image clearly? It looks very blurred to me. Can you confirm? Let me check if any technical issues at my end.
I see it fine. It's just it's
Okay.
very sorry, it's
Yeah.
very small.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I can
Yeah.
enlarge it.
Yeah. No, I think that's fine. Yeah. So I've intended to share this blurred image for security reasons. Thank you, Thamar.
Okay.
What I mean to say here is, though, when we set up the delivery of full text content to our partners, there is a need for the detailed eye and expertise in understanding the requirement at both ends. The delivery configuration contains detailed product information. For an example, either it's issue or article or standard journal, continuation publication by volume, continuous publication by issue. Most of these delivery targets are set for FTP and SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol. Ex Libris has recently completed the move to MFT, managed file transfer in a secured way to meet the compliance. This setup includes SSH key, secure socket shell key. At Sage, as Sage has several products, we could end up maintaining multiple keys, and we thought that could be very trickier for long term. So we have set up one folder, and we can share public key, but that won't work for Ex Libris, as MFT does not support that. So what we, Ex Libris and Sage, did is created one main MFT folder for all Sage content, and then have subfolders for each of the content type. So of course, it might look like a tiny task, but it took almost more than 6 to 8 months to complete this project, to move over completely to the MFT. But we did it. We did it with dedication, that what is required to be done. So sometimes such kind of changes may require and include a transformation as necessary, and there can be more than one transformation as well in some of these content deliveries, right? So all this information goes into the delivery setup, and it's not just one kind of setup. It requires a regular maintenance as well on our side. So it's an ongoing task forever. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so what does this mean? Yeah, I think Tamar, you can do click, yes. So there's a very, very high level workflow. Content management system, our repository feeds the content to Sage Journals platform. Sage content management system uses the validation rules, archiving the content and delivery of cross-pillar XML content. Content management system pushes to Sage Journals for publication, and after publication, content is pushed to the platform. Search engines like Google Scholar crawl our websites to index the metadata and links, same as Baidu as well, Bing as well. After that, cross-ref registration comes into the progress. Then, yeah, metadata is deposited to PubMed, Medline, for Medline and PMC. Content XML is pushed to a variety of other databases and discovery platforms like Web of Science, Scopus, EBSCO, CLC, ProQuest, and many more, supplemented by KBART packages with weekly update. And this all directs our users back to the content on Sage Journals platform. Right? So every new delivery requires configuration, testing, and constant communication, internal as well as external. Okay, so yeah, next slide, please. Right, so at Sage, we follow KBART 2 standard for KBART files. We have internal application called Electronic Resources Management that generates the KBART file every week. However, the new platforms, the new products, and any upcoming products, KBART files are prepared and maintained manually. Metadata from the systems play a vital part in synchronizing these files for the discovery service providers and customers. Sage also provides institutional holding report file in the KBART format for each customer that you can download from your admin account for journals and for learning pillar products. Addition to this, I would like to emphasize here that Sage provides mapping document to discovery service providers so that they are fully aware of the collections for each product and platform. The key to resolve any complex issue around metadata is constantly thinking outside the box to resolve them in the best possible way and on time. Next slide, please. Right. So, yeah, mark record process, one of my favorite process. I have a short story to share here. When I joined Sage back in 2017, we used to process mark records every quarter. That means customer would wait for the mark records for months after we published the content. So during 2018, I started pulling all the pain points together and started discussing with colleagues in other teams, production, editorial, sales, circulation, online support, account support, marketing, product innovation. During the pandemic, we decided to change the process a little bit. The major change that we proposed, agreed, and implemented is earlier we were processing mark records after the titles would be live on the platform. Now we are processing the mark records as soon as we have content available on the staging side, which means there would be very, very little chance to change in the ISBN and the URL. So the steps within this process have been increased than earlier. For an example, before production was not doing the QA of the content, which they do now. I used to process mark records one batch each quarter, and now I do more than 100 batches per each quarter. I also need to merge records together to make sure that collection are updated accurately according to the publishing schedule. And this changes in the process has benefited to all of our customers to have MARC records within a week and KBART files within maximum 2 weeks once the product would be live. In most of the cases, they are ready on the day of the launch of the product. We maintain a window of a week for MARC records and 2 weeks for KBART files for safer side. I've received very positive feedback from all our internal teams and my colleagues in sales. They're very, very happy about this development, as they always had so much feedback in past years, right? So yeah, it's good job done. Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. So yeah, the journey of MARC records not yet stopped. Currently, I'm working on a project where I'm using the taxonomy and the disciplines to be utilized for Library of Congress subject headings, 650 field. And according to that, we would also retrieve 050 and 082 in-house. So this would enable cost saving and accuracy of the metadata for our MARC records. So yeah, hope that would be happening soon. Next slide, please. Yeah, so ideally, these three elements are important for seamless access. Full text indexing in discovery systems, KBART in the knowledge base, MARC records in LMS. Next slide, please. So yeah, I asked another question in that webinar I presented in 2022, and these were the responses I received from the attendees. It is pretty much all of this that plays a part, either as little or as big. Okay, so yeah. I would like to summarize these challenges in these 6 categories. As these are complex workflows, the development work takes a time to make sure that nothing else would be affected with the proposed change. As a publisher, we don't have access to the systems of customers and partners fully. I have set up sandbox access for training purpose with the help of DSPs, but for resolving the issues, these are not enough. What I would like to emphasize here, I would like to encourage all of you to raise requests with Sage and with Exlibris without any hesitation in your capacity when you see that, okay, this is an issue, please take an effort to report that to Sage Online Support or whoever is your contact. Okay, lack of empowering systems to create KBART files, MARC records, and full text content deliveries to meet up the complexity of workflows. As Julia mentioned, metadata issues, it's happening all the time. Use of Excel files continues everywhere. So ISBNs and URLs sometimes won't match. Even additional a little space would be a problem. Validation errors, schematron rules in a complex setup. Last but not the least, if there is a strained relationship, the response would be delayed not just by days but by weeks, and it will refrain the quick resolution. So this helps to maintain the expectation and conversation, balanced at both ends. And we are approaching the end of this presentation. And yeah, I would like to finish by sharing some positive notes that I've received from my colleagues at Sage. I'm not going to read all of them, but yeah, when I receive good feedback about all the hard work, it boosts me to do more and more. I did provide the training in my sales team, and they never ever had this insight of your systems, that how you would see, right? So it's important to share that for better understanding, right? Next slide, please. Yeah, here a few more feedback from colleagues from account support and product innovation. Yeah, and few more. I like this one so much when I heard about it from one of librarians and Sage customer, that what magic you do. But yeah, it works really well for the journals. And yeah, as you all know, Sage is a global company. So yeah, I work globally. And yeah, I would like to finish it by sharing our founder's statement, Sarah Miller McCann. Our independence allows us to remain emission driven for the long term. Okay. Thank you for listening. Over to you, Tamar.
Great. Thank you very much. And I learned a lot from this presentation. I think we could easily fill up a whole day of talking metadata and workflows. And you know, I just want to also, as Julia and Manisha said, reporting metadata issues helps us improve metadata for the entire community. So appreciate your feedback. We're very thankful of the information that you provide us with end user experience, and since also Oxford University Press and Sage, they handle metadata, a large variety of metadata, different material types. So errors happen, and they will happen, but the challenges here are also what makes the job so interesting, and finding the fixes, analyzing different scenarios. That's very helpful to have good partnership, good communication with the community members. So I think we have time for questions now.
Yeah, I think we do. So first of all, thank you, Tamar, and a special thank you to Julia and Manisha for joining us today. I'd like to open with a really nice comment that we got, that it's very clear that our vendors and Ex Libris are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make our lives as library workers easier, and that's much appreciated. So thank you for that comment, and some excitement about KBART automation as well. So we do have a couple of questions that came in. I will respectfully do them in the order in which they came in. So Julia, the first question was for you about the format in which you send the XML files, if that is in Dublin Core.
For which type of file? For MARC records, they're delivered in, oh my goodness, why does everything blank when you're in a large environment? Is it ISO 8? Sorry, I'm forgetting what it is. But everything's delivered in a standardized format. I do not believe it's delivered in Dublin Core though, for MARC records. It is MARC 21. And sorry, I am blanking. I will find out the answer. And I'll find the question and email that person directly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julia. Sorry for putting you on the spotlight. We have a question for Manisha about why Sage continues to have separate platforms for journals and books.
I would say it's a product decision, and we just need to appreciate and follow the guidelines. I believe when the content might be the similar pattern, it might be easier to manage that way. That's my assumption. But yeah, feel free to reach out to your contacts and share this query, and I'll make sure that I provide you the right answer rather than my just simple assumption. Okay, thank you. And I just want to mention, might be Julia, it's UTF-8 mock records.
Thank you.
That's what we follow for Mark and KBART. That's more preferable format. That works pretty well compared to other formats. So yeah, hope that helps. Thank you.
That does. Thank you for putting the UTF in front of the 8. I knew it had an 8 there. That is the standard that is preferred by, that is, as I mentioned in the presentation, our records are made by BDS, and BDS uses that standard. And their librarians and catalogers there at BDS are well versed in their head of metadata collection is involved with IFLA and in the cataloging community. And so that is the standard they prefer. And so hence we deliver in that format as well, if that helps.
I think actually I'm going to mix up the order a little bit here because there is a question in that context. So do you think the current standards, KBART, Mark 21, etc., are sufficient for handling your data and sending it to Ex Libris? And if not, what kind of standard is missing in your opinion? And this was a question to both Julia and Manisha.
Manisha, do you want to go first for this one?
Yeah, I can. I would say it's a great question. In my mind, I do dream of having very simplified systems for mock records, KBART, and full text content indexing as well. I don't think that exists yet. However, what I do at Sage, I work very closely with our internal developers, and I write proposals for mock records and KBART files to make sure that our systems, internal systems, are very supportive to meet your requirements and on time as well. So yeah, that's my knowledge. As per my knowledge, that's what I know. That yeah, I haven't come across any single system that would help both of them or three of them. But yeah, that's my dream. And I hope that, once we find the solution, I hope it would help other publishers and other partners as well. Okay, so yeah, over to you, Julia.
So for Mark records, I think that there's some improvements to be made from Mark 21 moving. We're looking at starting, looking at BibFrame, what we need to do there. We've got Mark, we've got RDA. I think there's a lot of standards that have to be met, and we can't always meet all of them. OUPs, so our content operations and our decision-making teams run off of something called Pragmatic, from the Pragmatic Institute. We're all in some way, shape or form trained through that product management line. So we work a lot off of customer evidence. So if a lot of our customers are telling us that they want to see mesh headings in our medicine titles, then we're going to go about looking at doing that. And that's actually something we're currently working on with our strategy group. We have what's called the Discovery Working Group internally that's looking, and it's like a group headed by me that looks at strategy, moving things forward. Do we want to look at BibFrame? Do we want to do X? Do we want to do Y? One of those things that we're looking at right now is something like mesh headings. Do we want to use that? So I feel almost in a way as if there's too many standards for Mark records. Highlighted by the previous question. Do we deliver in UTF-8 or do we deliver in Dublin Core? And the majority of our customers want UTF-8, so we deliver in that format. So I'd like to see Mark streamlined in a way, which would be lovely. For KBART, I, just like everybody else, is sitting out there eagerly anticipating the fantastic work going on at NISO. And I know that Andre's on the call today because she indicated herself there with the previous question about automated KBART. We are all eagerly waiting phase 3. And as long as phase 3 can help us keep up with the changing formats of the way publishers want to detail content, I think we're in a good spot. We're about to launch a new product next year called Oxford Intersections that I can say, you know, we struggle as a team because we're limited almost in the way that, like, we can't deliver in different formats because librarians need to see things in concrete blocks such as books and journals, articles, chapters. And so working with Intersections, they want to deliver in different formats, but we have to be limited by the standards that are there. In the discovery strategic realm of OUP, we are learning what Intersections will involve so that we can help modify the metadata to meet the needs of the publishing platform. But we get there. But yeah, I think at this point, we're all eagerly waiting KBART phase 3 so that we can see if that meets some of those needs to publish in formats other than the standard chapterable article, book, journal. Does that help answer the question?
I hope so.
I hope so.
Thank you, Julia and Manisha. So considering the time, I'm going to throw us one last question in a completely different area, also open to Julia and Manisha. Do you think an AI program can help you manage your data and send it to Ex Libris? If so, did you have a chance to check in AI programs and which?
We are not looking at AI as a standard for helping to build and create KBART or MARC. We're not looking at it at this point. The press is just starting to explore how we should respond to AI, and I'll allow others in the press to be the blunt edge of the sword moving forward. So we'll follow along afterwards.
Great. And again, I would say brilliant question. What we did at Sage using the AI, it was just for the fun, but the results were eye-opening. We have different systems which would store the metadata, either it's for journals or our learning pillar products. What my colleague did was picking one of the journal reference file, which is a master file. When we would get the content uploaded to our content repository system, the same file I check with our Sage Journals all titles KBART files. AI gave us the results whether ISSN, ISBNs not matching without even asking. So we started for the fun, but now at Sage we have created AI group internally to look out these kind of issues that we can eliminate those kind of errors to make sure the content or the metadata in any format that we deliver to our partners are more accurate. So yeah, this is just the starting, but yeah, I would also add that okay, using AI is not bad at all, but how we use the AI is important. If we use it for certain aim, it may help further. As the example I have shared, just we were just checking for the fun, but the outcome was very, very helpful to understand where we are lacking or where our system needs better support. So yeah, if we consider that, then yeah, definitely AI would help. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll also echo your thoughts. I know that at Ex Libris and Clarivate, we also believe that AI really is a means to an end. It's important that we use AI technology to create solutions that actually solve real problems and real challenges, and that's the goal at the end of the day. So again, thank you very much to Tamar, Julia, and Manisha. We'll send out a recording of this session. We did not get to many of the Q&A questions that were posted, but we will get back to you on those offline. So again, thank you very much and have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.